Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Keep Me Up podcast. I'm with you as always, Shane. Thank you for tuning in. And with me is my best friend, Bals. His real name's David. David, say hello.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
So today we're going to be giving you a full spoiler review of Bill and Ted Face the Music, aka Bill and Ted 3. So Bals and I, we've known each other for 35 years. We've been best friends for 35 years. And we kind of fancy ourselves the Bill and Ted of the Bronx, only hopefully a little bit smarter. But I don't know. I'm sure Balls' wife would beg to differ that. So, Dave, tell me about what was your introduction to Bill and Ted originally, years and years and decades ago?
I mean, I wish I could remember the first time seeing it. You know, it's been so long. You know, to be totally honest with you, I can't remember if I saw it in theaters or not. I believe I did. I know I did. And I'm sure I saw it with a good friend of mine. But I don't know.
You didn't, though. You didn't see the first one with me. Because my introduction, I think, was 1990 when the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures cartoon was on. I think Channel 2 in New York. And I had no idea that it had been a movie. And I remember talking to you about it. And you were like, yeah, bro, it was based on, the movie came out like a year ago, whatever. And I'm like, no way. This is like live action? And
I know I had the movie on VHS.
You did. You didn't originally.
I had it on VHS. And I had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on VHS, too.
I mean, we had a lot of stuff on VHS. The very first two VHSs I had was Empire Strikes Back and Follow That Bird, but I digress. But I remember you telling me it was real, and I was a big fan of Punky Brewster. Remember Punky Brewster?
Oh, yeah.
So in that show, kids were getting trapped in refrigerators, and it was like, not serious, but also a sitcom. It was like regular, real-life 80s sitcom. But the cartoon of Punky Brewster had this like magical teddy bear or something that would like travel on the other side of the rainbow, and they go to some fairyland, her and her friends. So I'm thinking Bill and Ted's cartoon was like that. That the movie was like surfer dudes just hanging out, kind of like the two funny dudes in Summer School, that movie. And that the cartoon was like fantastical for children. So you told me, dude, Rufus is in it. Like, they travel through time. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. Then I remember I begged my mom to rent it, and we were going to rent it one night. And I still in school that day. I was so excited. I was like, so Rufus is in it? Like, they travel? You're like, yeah, bro. He's fucking watch it. And so I was hooked the second I saw the cartoon, then the movie. And then when Bogus Journey came out in 91, you and I saw that together opening weekend with my mother. I remember that. And that was pretty cool. And now here we are, 29 years later, for the final installment, Bill and Ted Face the Music, which no one ever thought in their right mind would ever get made. So, what's Bill and Ted Face the Music about?
Well, I mean, basically, Bill and Ted have, created this song that's supposed to align the world. And
well, they haven't yet. They're supposed to.
Well, it's exactly in the movies. In the first one and the second one, they were these. The future said that this is what they did. So come the third one, they still haven't done that song. So they have to try to do that song.
Yes.
And then, of course, they run into issues along the way. And they take notes from, I say, the second one where, let's just... Because in the second one, it was just, let's go to the future and do this.
Yeah, and it seemed like they had done it.
And man, think of the garbage can, but that was the first one.
Yes, think of a can. Yeah, I mean, it's very much about... it's about regret, really, I think. At the end of the day, it's about being for them in their 50s. For us, you're almost 40, I'm 40. And just having that sense of knowing you were supposed to do something great with your life, but then you keep falling short. And what does that feel like? With a fantastical sci-fi twist on it of having to save the world on top of that. And then in this movie... all of reality, because all of reality is coming undone, and all different alternate realities and timelines, everyone's just being plucked out, and it's a big Doctor Who-esque timey-wimey jumble. So that's really what this is about. They literally have 77 minutes to write that song from Preston Logan and save the world. So
the movie's what?
Only an hour and a half, which...
It was about 80 minutes?
90 minutes. I think it's like 92 minutes with credits.
So I really, unfortunately, because I didn't know what time the movie actually started, I would have wanted to see when they said how many minutes were left, if that was actually how many minutes were left in the movie, too.
I think it's
That
close
was
to
cool.
that. I think it's fairly close to that because I
Very
remember
close.
the interviews of like Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson, who wrote all three and created these characters, said that it's pretty much a real time movie. So,
Yeah.
but
Interesting.
yeah. So I mean, what I have a lot of notes here. I will say that I do like, and tell me what you think about this. The fact that they're older, they're failures in many ways. They're angry. Ted is very angry in this. They're a little bit smarter, but they're still those surfer dudes who are kind of clueless about things. But while the hope comes back when they feel like they kind of could do it, or when they realize they will do it, hope is lost, and I do appreciate that. It's a not trying to be the same as the first two movies where they're like happy go lucky. Like they're in a bad place, these two, and they're about to lose their marriages and everything. And but it also advances on. It doesn't negate the past movies. So often when you have a movie that a sequel that says we've wrapped it all up, and then they do another movie, they'll forget like all the post credit, like the credit stuff in Bogus Journey. Where like they go to the moon, oh they play Red Rocks, they play Grand Canyon, Death has a solo, Missy marries the Novelist. They didn't forget any of that. Like all that happened, but it just didn't. We didn't get that one song to unite the world. So I like that they didn't negate that. They're actually musicians. They actually know about music history in this. They've passed it on to their daughters. So it's a progression, which I feel is good because it's not trying to be the other movies. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you on that one, and especially like you said, with the ending credits of the second one with those little snippets and showing it, and yeah, and they included that in that. Moving on, coming into the third one, yes, that was part of the history, so they didn't ignore it. They mentioned it, and you mentioned the daughters. I kind of wish they would have showed them dabbling more into music throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they do talk about having good knowledge of music history, but you don't see them with instruments or anything like that.
No, that only when they go to get those other musicians is that they kind of bring out their history by knowing who it is.
Yeah.
Who's what. As I kept saying to Christina when we were watching it, I was like, oh, is that so and so, and oh, is that so and so, and I was like, oh, I was kind of right. I'm horrible at history.
Oh, and by the way, everyone, we went to a drive-in, so don't add us. We're not in an actual enclosed movie theater. We know COVID is real, but I do agree with that. But I do kind of think that's just who the characters are, because it was almost a reflection of all the different ages of music, from Mozart's in this all the way up to Louis Armstrong, Jimi Hendrix, Bill and Ted, Death, and to their daughters who never play an instrument in it. They're using those mixers that modern day musicians who use like mashups use. So it's the blending of centuries worth of types of music, giving equal respect to each time frame and each genre of music, which I think was kind of cool because it bridged all those gaps. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from with them not. You don't really see it all that much, but then again, it grows into their movie in a way, but it really is, of course, about Bill and Ted and their journey. So
so seeing the previews before going into it, I totally expected.
The final outcome.
Now what happened with Ghostbusters, what happened with this movie, what happened with that movie. They're gonna make the girls the heroes and whatever it is. I don't care whether the men are the heroes or the women are the heroes. That doesn't bother me. But to me, I was like, oh, they're going to ruin it because they're just going to do that. Yeah. And it wasn't like that. It started to go that way, and then it kind of made like a little left turn. Right?
Yeah.
I'm glad that it was really the dads that it was Bill and Ted that helped bring to light to their daughters, hey, it's you guys. And then they were like, oh, yeah, okay. Like I like the way that it worked out in the end like that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had this whole family approach to it. Granted, the wives, the princesses, are always kind of a throwaway. And one negative I have for the film is that the progression of their sea story in it was lacking, because you don't have any emotional resonance with these actresses, because this is the third time. Well, it's the second time they've been recast, so the third actresses in the roles, but it still had a message about it being a family unit. And something I know you've always had a big issue with in film is how so often good fathers are not appreciated in film and television, and this is about good fathers and mothers, but really because Bill and Ted, it's about the fathers, and the fathers instilling all this knowledge of music and love of life and harmony and saving the universe. None of this could have happened without the Mary and Joseph, so to speak, that is Bill and Ted, that had to pave the way for the next generation, and yet still they were absolutely integral into the final resolution that is brought on as a family unit, not just, it is 2 Prestons and 2 Logans, and in a way 3 Prestons and 3 Logans if you include the wives. So yeah, it ran, the trend is to say men are stupid, women are the best, and they will save everything, and let's kill off John Connor, and let's neuter Jean-Luc Picard, and let's ruin and let's make everyone a Mary Sue. But in this they didn't do that. They teased at it, and then they said, nope, we're going to do our own thing, and everyone's going to be respected and valued in this, which was very relieving. And granted, the final resolution of like, oh, it's you guys who are going to write the song. Anyone with a brain figures that out. You figured it out like 2 months ago. So I wouldn't say there was a big reveal, but at least the way they executed it was not predictable. It was what I hoped. And when I was terrified, you were like, I don't know, bro. I was terrified you were going to be right. But at least they gave equal credence to everybody.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. What?
I said I'm glad I wasn't right.
Yeah. I'm glad. I was fascinated to see 12 hours later, 14 hours later, what your overnight thoughts were of that, and to see where it is. So I'm glad that you and I are on the same page and being like, okay, good. They did it the right way.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are some random stuff I have in here. What did you think of the robot Dennis, who's sent back in time by? Because in the first movie, there's the 3 most important people in the world: Clarence Clemens from the E Street Band, God rest his soul, and now they have like 7 most important people. I think 5 men, 2 women, and it ends up that the most important woman, the leader, is Rufus's wife, and Rufus has passed away because George Carlin has passed away. And she sends Bill and Ted she's like, you have 77 minutes to write this song, but then she doesn't think they're going to do it. So basically it becomes this like prophecy of Rufus had all this information and he was the main voice of this is what will happen. It would all make sense in the end. His daughter's a big believer in Bill and Ted being the ones to write the song, and the mother, Rufus's widow, is not so sure. So she sends a robot back in time to kill Bill and Ted to try to bring about universal harmony. What do you think of that robot?
Well, I mean, it's a comic relief cheesy kind of guy, but I mean, the whole premise was the reason why he was there. Yeah, she's sending him there is what helped in causing them to get the song and get everything.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because everything that's in the when you start messing with time and all that, anytime anything is done, it affects everything else. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the character itself a bit cheesy. I mean, I guess they could have done something else to go after him. Who knows? They could have brought back Denomulus, but it was a bit cheesy. But I mean, I guess they're trying to use that because it's the future, so we want to use future thing, a robot that has feelings all of a sudden. I was wondering what do you think of it?
I was wondering in the previews, because he kind of looks like Death, and I was like, is he going to be like the bad robot Death? Because the good robot Us's and the bad robot Us's in Bogus Journey. I think I was afraid because of how he starts like doing like weird comedy and then it slowly builds into this character that has a name, has feelings and all that stuff, and kind of becomes a good guy. He does become a good guy. He's just a weird dude. It almost felt like Will Ferrell in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where it's like, ooh, just a comedy, and it's completely jarring, completely out of place, and doesn't really work. But I think they kept it just enough, and I think what was cute about it was the fact that he was in a way what Death was in Bogus Journey, because in this, Death is like, okay, you'll go do this, and leave me alone, and he's like, but I want to do this, and I want to do that. Same way like Death was all like, but I can do this, and I can do that, and Bill's like, okay, Death, okay. So the tables have kind of flipped, so Death has almost someone to reject and push away. So, I mean, I liked it. And yes, like you said, it's the catalyst. Everything is cause and effect. And so all the pieces of the puzzle had to come together and only make sense in the end, as per Rufus's prophecy and final message to Bill and Ted. You do see Rufus in the holographic thing, and that's one continuity issue I have. They have someone doing a George Carlin voice, and he talks about how he first met Bill and Ted in '89. That's when the movie came out, but in the movie of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, it says on screen it takes place in 1988. So they fucked up. But, you get that tribute to Rufus, and what I really love is the fact that everything is tied to Rufus. And it's a tip to George Carlin, it's a tip to the fans. Rufus really never had a huge role to play. He actually has the biggest role to play in this without being in it, really. And I do appreciate that. And, of course, like you said, it all comes together. Without the robot, they don't die, they don't go to hell, everything doesn't come together. So it plays with the time game in a smart way, I think.
Wait, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Right? So, maybe I missed it, but where did the princesses get the telephone booth?
When Bill and Ted, current day Bill and Ted, because in this movie, audience, they go visit, they try to keep going to the future to get the song post being written and then, pass along to themselves. So they keep seeing asshole versions of themselves. Some dudes who try to get in a fight with them trying to kill themselves, them going to jail for trying to kill themselves, and breaking into Dave Grohl's house. He has a cameo in this. And so they're in prison, and then old versions of themselves. So when they go to the nursing home to meet like 88-year-old versions of themselves, the old princesses steal the booth at that point.
That's right.
And so the old princesses get the new princess, the current princesses.
They went back to the present time to go run into their meeting that they were having, the
couples
therapy session they were having. And that's when they took the booth, right?
Well, originally they got the booth. The old versions of the princess got the boost when Bill and Ted, current day, go to visit themselves pretty much on their deathbeds.
Right. He said that they visited them. That's right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you see like a quick shot of what looks like an older woman, and it didn't even have such an idiot.
That was weird. That was kind of a throwaway. I think this movie could have benefited from being 15 minutes longer, 20 minutes longer. It's only an hour and a half. It should have been almost 2 hours. It really should have been half an hour longer. And given a chance for the princesses to flesh themselves out, maybe there'll be a director's cut. I don't know. But
I guarantee there's more footage cut where they probably use more of them, showing them actually going and running into the booth.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Because I guess the old princesses are trying to get the current day princesses basically to see that, because in one timeline, Bill and Ted present day just keep screwing up and convincing the wives to leave them by screwing up. So I think the old versions are like, let's try to show the younger us's that they meant well and they were trying. So they keep bringing the current day princesses to see what current day Bill and Ted are doing to try to save their marriages in the current day. But that could have been a lot more clear. That's just a guess because they kind of that was a little loosey-goosey, which was like, So yeah, that was that.
Unless they're trying to make another movie with them, just them.
I don't think so. I think if they're going to make another movie with somebody else, it'll be the daughters. It would be
probably, yeah.
Which I do like the fact that they mentioned, like, the old man Logan, Chief Logan talks about how, like, they used to be called Little Bill, Little Ted, just like in Bogus Journey, and now they're Thea and Billy. Which, bring it all together and saying, look, this does make sense. These were the nicknames, blah, blah, blah. I was hoping that, and tell me what you think. Because basically to save the universe at the end, all these musicians come together from all different time frames. And really, the ultimate thing is not just that the song is written by Bill and Ted and Bill and Ted's daughters. It's that every living creature throughout all of time and history have to play the song together. The message of the film is unity and hope and understanding each other, not in a way where it's beating you over the head with the pulpit, but just this message of hope and peace. All you need is love, peace and love. And in this day and age, Lord knows we need that. But Bill and Ted and the princesses have to go to every living creature throughout all of eternity, throughout all of history. Very Doctor Who-ish. How long did it take them to do that? They basically say they became this, like, what was it? Not omnipotent, they didn't say, but basically a celestial being almost. They became this, like, omnipresent being. So in a way, Bill and Ted become gods in this. What do you think about that?
When you have a time machine, you have unlimited time. You always have time.
But remember, Ted vanished on his own at one point. He didn't even use the booth.
because that was, to me, that was, so when they go up, so if you notice, every time that they've used the phone booth, it always goes down.
Yeah.
And that's the one time it goes up.
Yeah.
And it went up into the sky, and then it looked like the phone booth separated into a million different phone booths. And that's, where that Ted
Oh, so it was simultaneous. That's true.
Well, because, okay, so I invent a time machine right now, and I go back 10 seconds to prevent myself from inventing a time machine, then that didn't ever happen. But you can always change that. You can always, if the time is always moving, and if you're always using time, as a reason, that's why in movies it gets all really weird and stuff like that. But that time, he went, when it separated them, they did it, like you said, all at the same time.
Yeah, no, you're right. I missed that.
11:59 p.m., 1 second they went. And
that's right.
So every time it goes.
So there were,
Even if you pass that time frame, with the time machine, you can go back to that second.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I told you. I'm thinking about it in a linear way, which is stupid. I should be thinking about a non-linear way. And you're right. They all those booths came out, so they were like unlimited versions of Bill and Ted and the Princesses handing instruments to people.
I mean, once I get out of the prison, I'll find your keys, Dad, and I'll put them right here.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
It is. That's very true. Thank you for setting my mind straight with that. I had hoped that they would have used that opportunity to visit all the historical figures from the first one, and also Station. Cool. Like I would have liked to have seen them hand the instruments to Station, or like Billy the Kid. Like I mean, a lot of those, the one who played, I think, Abe Lincoln and Socrates have passed away. But like you can use, like they did with Rufus, they can cut it out, unused footage or old footage, and just say, oh, and it'd be like that would have been. I would have loved that little homage. I think maybe they were in the Old West for one shot that I missed. But I mean, I'll have to see it again to be sure. But I think that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It would have been cool. They did do a bunch of throwbacks, but it would have been cool to keep it going. It was almost like they were like, all right, let's do these throwbacks right at the beginning and get them out of the way. Yeah. And let's move on with the story.
I mean, like they did have like at the end when they have to like dial in this number in the booth, which I like that they have the original booth. It's supposed to be the original booth that was on display in the future, and now the 28th century. But it has all the hanger wires, but it doesn't have the cans and the nasty ass bubble gum, which I would appreciate that throwback. I know they have like 69, look, 6, 9, so it because they're older, they're not doing all the same, like 69, dude, and there's very little air guitar in it, but it is there, so I mean, I do appreciate that.
It would have been great if they would have nodded, though, when he said 69, So
yeah, right? Like, of course. But at least
I kind of like looked over at you and nodded, but then I was like,
yeah, right. But I do like that, and of course Missy. A good throwback is Missy's barely in it. It is the original actress, and she's married to Ted's younger brother Deacon now. They mentioned that she was married to Bill's father, which that actor's still alive. I don't know why he wasn't in it. Hopefully he's okay, or maybe they don't have a relationship with him anymore. Of course, then he married Ted's father, which I do like the resolution for Ted because he just doesn't believe that like death was actually death, and he doesn't believe they went to hell or heaven or traveled through time. But in this, he finally gets killed, sent to hell. He sees the Grim Reaper when he's falling through the very deep hole, which they didn't do the same gag twice, but it was still there, which is a nod, like we were saying. Even though Death says he was demoted in hell, so I don't know why he was meeting Ted's father. If he was demoted, that's a little weird. Whatever, I digress. And there was a resolution, like, I'm sorry, son, I'll do whatever I can to help you. And then Bill's like, yeah, Chief Logan's like, I'm not talking to you. So he's still kind of an asshole to Bill, but at least he has a resolution with his son, which was, he would, ooh. Yeah, like, I mean, that was cool because in both of the first films, especially the first one, he's kind of just a dick. But his son also is unemployed and doesn't have a job, so, So at the end, we already said, they write the song with their daughters who basically conduct a universal orchestra with Bill and Ted playing, with the wives playing, with Death on bass, with Mozart and Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi is this, like, alternate reality version of themselves, which is weird, of himself, which I didn't fully explain, where he's, like, an entertainer, but also a quantum physicist, because he kept giving these, like, expositional quick answers to things, which I felt like that didn't work for me. How do you feel about that Kid Cudi part?
I mean, I don't know if there was somebody in production or whatever, or the writers, maybe the writers' kids that liked that like him and just wanted him in there.
Yeah.
That might be why. And he didn't seem to fit well, but I mean, the character was okay. But the part, where he spouts the reason behind that specific number. What was it, 6446? I flip it around in my head all the time. And then he was wrong because clearly it was
a mile marker. Yeah. But then he kept saying like, oh, how do we do this and how do we do that? I was like, clearly you got the phone booth and you got to do this quantum that and that quantum that. And they're like, in plain English, dude, I would have rather that been station. Like all of a sudden they spoke Martianese and like station. Oh, okay, so station. That would have been funny continuity. The Kid Cudi part of him being the quantum genius, I feel would have worked had it had a little bit more of a fleshing out. Again, my issue with the movie being so fast and so bang 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 over. If they gave it a little more explanation behind it, I would have been totally okay with it. But it just felt almost like just shoehorned in there, probably because someone's kid likes him. And I like Kid Cudi, don't get me wrong. But
maybe it was another way of getting the younger audience or a younger audience in.
Probably, and that's necessary and that's great, and I love that. But I think just give it a beat of explanation. My down parts again. Having the princesses be recast again, I felt. Granted, I never felt an attachment to the originals, but I think if they had the originals of Bogus Journey in this, you would have had some sense of bond. How do you feel about the princesses?
Yeah, I always thought the first ones were the hottest ones. But yeah, I mean, I understand that you gotta, some of them have to be recasted, whatever. Mm-hmm. Ironically, one of the actresses my wife recognized, and so did I, from Glee. She plays one of the, who's not a therapist, a guidance counselor or something like that.
Yeah, that was, I think, Joanna, I think Bill's wife, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't recognize the other one at all from anything. But
I think I've seen them both and stuff, but I don't, like, in these roles, they're just like, eh.
But they're kind of throwaways,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you had mentioned that already. But, so, I mean, it's kind of good that they kind of gave them a little bit of something to do. It was almost like saying, like, we're not going to include you in this whole movie, so let's make you look busy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like Red Letter Media, like Mr. Plinkett and all that group, who are amazing. They were like one of the biggest plot points that they don't like from the very first one into the second one was the princesses. It just kind of shoehorned in there and doesn't really fit. But
when the daughters were like, "We got these, dads," I totally expected them to be playing like 20 minutes to pass, half hour to pass, and Bill and Ted being like, "What's going on in there?" And like he opens the door and they're playing like Chutes and Ladders or something. I was really expecting the daughters to like play a game with them, like like they did in the second one.
Yeah.
Because Bill and Ted are like, "What is he doing? He's playing hopscotch by himself." So I'm like, "Oh, he wants to play a game." I totally thought that's what they were gonna do. I mean, the way they went was fine, but I still think they should have like had the daughters play a game.
That would have been funny. I mean, I like that they did have the throwaway because he's like, best 576 out of 602, whatever it is he said, like, to himself. Like, he's living in the past. He's living in his glory years, and he misses his friends, even though they're very pissed at each other. And we're going to get to that in a quick second. But, yeah, I see where you're coming from with that, but I think at that point, the movie's made for the fans, and it's made for people who have a sentimental attachment to the characters. So they had these seminal moments, which I'll get into as my two favorite, but that scene being one of them where they talk about where they're able just to have emotion above fun, I guess, in a way, even though that scene starts off very funny. But I do see where it would have been funny, but I don't know, I kind of like the route they went better because it's about the bonds and the family instead of just the gimmick. I think they're almost past that. I don't know.
Maybe they could have done both, where they had them starting to play a game where they played one, and then they beat him twice. He goes on to say best 5 out of whatever, 3 out of 5, and then they're like, "Oh, come on!" And then the daughters go into that.
But then again, they only have 77 minutes to save the world too, so.
Then an hour and 20 or an hour and 30.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying with that. Which daughter do you think was better in this film?
See, I do think they picked two good actresses. Like I do think that you could totally tell that they studied the mannerisms of the first two, and how their actual physical movements were.
Yeah.
And they put that in there. I really like that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's. So I'm sorry to be cheesy, but I don't really think there's a favorite with me. Which one?
Yeah.
They both. I think they both were detrimental to it. You know, they were both extremely important.
Instrumental.
Yeah.
You said detrimental.
Well, instrumental. Detrimental's bad.
Yeah. I agree.
The sun shining in my face.
I do feel a little bit of like the actress who plays Billy, Ted's daughter. I keep screwing that up. I feel like it just at first it felt a little bit forced, being very Keanu-ish, but I feel like really grew into it. I would be interested to see the order which the shooting order of this, because I'll get to that in a second with Bill and Ted themselves, with Keanu and Alex. I really liked both of them, and I thought Ted's daughter was I thought she was hot. But the Bill's daughter, I feel slightly, if I had to make a choice, edged out Billy in the performance. But yeah, I do agree that it was pretty even. It did feel very, because I mean, I love Keanu Reeves and I always wanted to be Ted when I was a kid, but I do feel Alex Winter is, at least in these roles, a superior actor. Like he just, for me, edges out Keanu Reeves a little bit. So I feel like that perfectly mirrored the fathers, and whether by design or happenstance or both or providence, that mirroring worked perfectly, and the chemistry between the four of them was amazing. Of Bill and Ted, of Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter coming back to it 29 years later, did one outshine the other for you?
So, to me, Bill's character, to me, looks like he grew up more. Not just physically, just by him saying, like, we need, basically how we need to be more responsible. But to me, in the first one, Ted was to be the more responsible one, even though Bill was going to end up going to... That's the way I felt. To me, it felt like he was the one that was always goofing off,
Really? Because, I mean, Ted was the one who was going to go to military school.
The $5 bill, to me, he was always goofing off, and Ted was kind of the one that was like, no, remember...
You're reversing it, bro. You're totally reversing it.
Flipping it around?
Yeah, because Ted was the one bouncing on the bed.
Keanu Reeves was always doing this.
Well, like Bill's the intellectual one, if you can say that of Bill and Ted. He's the one who kind of has the plan, but Bill is more, that's Bill, but Ted is more the intuitive, emotional one. Like, I got a bad feeling about this. And like, and this one's like, I'm tired, bro. I'm ready to throw in the towel. And Bill's like, we have a plan, bro. So I feel like that carried on in this, no?
Am I just totally flipped them around?
I think you did, because like in the first one, it's Bill like, dude, Alaska, and Ted's like, you ever make a mushroom out of his head? And the $5, yeah.
Okay. So I just flipped the names around because I'm dyslexic.
There you go.
Got it.
So it's consistent then. So it's absolutely consistent. But like, of which actor do you think? Do you think one actor eased into the characters easier?
I think it's funny. After when we were watching when we were done in the bathroom, when we were walking back to the cars, I was actually going to say to you about Alex Winter, and I'm like, wow, he's actually a really good actor. And then we saw on screen that there was a scene after the credits.
Yes.
Which, ironically, before the movie, we talked about how movies have scenes after the credits, and we totally didn't sit there and watch the credits.
Yeah, we're stupid. We're dumbasses. I think...
We literally told ourselves.
We ran back to the car to listen to it, and I feel like that was it's basically old Bill and Ted like on their deathbed playing guitars again, and it felt completely improvised because it was hilarious, and it was mostly Alex Winter carrying that scene. I think Alex Winter definitely... I've always looked at Alex Winter as being an incredible talent, just, I mean... how few people age and look like 54-year-old whatever it is Keanu Reeves and looks like he's still 35. I mean, he's got the looks, he's got the presence, whereas Alex Winter doesn't. But they both, Alex Winter still has a career, but I think he's always been the superior actor in my eyes. Say nothing bad. I love Keanu. Everyone loves Keanu. He's a terrific human being by all accounts. But I do think Alex Winter slid into Bill again seamlessly, whereas I compare Keanu in this to Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens, where the first kind of scenes are a little bit shaky. Like, ooh, is he really Han Solo again? Ooh, is he really Ted Theodore Logan again? And then at a certain point, it was just like Bill and Ted are back. They're both completely in the roles. And maybe that has to do with the fact that Ted is a completely different place in this than he was in the other ones, whereas Bill's a little bit more Bill in it. But, I mean, all in all, I do think they did a terrific job, and it was great to see them back.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you on that one, yeah. It was good to see them working together.
Yeah, it really was. And to have a proper goodbye, although I would have liked not just a post-credit scene, an epilogue to it. It just ends with the universe performing a song. It just abruptly ends in the same way that, like, Bogus Journey just ended with the high five at the end and at the Battle of the Bands. I would have appreciated maybe doing a throwback to the first film where they're, again, the two of them in the garage talking about what their adventure just was. I would have liked them to have a little bit of a reflective moment on how far they've come and how much they love each other and how they did it. Where we don't get that, and I feel gypped as a fan who waited 29 years because of that.
Yeah, it goes back to our agreement of the movie should have been a little bit longer. Because you've been able to fit all this stuff in. I mean, who knows if, DVDs, Blu-rays get released to bonus footage and decide to throw that. Or I don't know. Everything's now jumping on Netflix. Who knows if all of a sudden they get a series they want to put on Netflix. Hey, that'd be awesome.
You're right. They're not getting Keanu Reeves for that. I mean, kudos to Keanu for coming back. I mean, a lot of big stars don't go back to their first properties, especially one as silly as Bill and Ted. Yeah. And that's, I think, a testament because Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves are good friends in real life, and they're still good friends with the writers. And they both love George Carlin. So I just think, and William Sadler plays Death. I think that was great. What's your least favorite scene and favorite scene?
Real quick, I was trying to mention to you, I don't know if you knew that, but Rufus's daughter's name is the same name as George Carlin's real-life daughter.
Oh, is it, Kelly?
I'm telling you. When she said her name, I said, that's George Carlin's daughter's name.
Oh, I love that. I did not know that.
As well, yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful touch. I love that. I'm glad you told me that. I love that. So what's...
my least favorite...
Yeah.
My least favorite is... I think my least favorite and my favorite are all in the same scene, per se. Mm-hmm. But the beginning of it, when they go to Dave Grohl's house, but they don't know that they're at Dave Grohl's house. Mm-hmm. And I kept leaning over to Christina, and I was like, this isn't right. They don't have it. There's something wrong with them. To me, I knew it was a hoax or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. I knew it was a trap. So to me, that was my least favorite part because it was kind of predictable in that sense. Yeah. Maybe it's also me in that I don't trust things, so I'm quick to say, I don't trust that. I don't know. My gut feeling tells me this. My gut feeling tells me that.
Well, I think...
But to me, one of the favorite parts was when Dave Grohl shows up. Ironically.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the hell are you doing? And he wasn't like, it was just like this, he wasn't like, I'm this famous guy and everyone's got to bow out. Like, it was kind of just like,
it was a regular dude.
Humble, like, hey, what are you doing in my house? Yeah. And then, like, that was really it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like that little cameo. Yeah, I get that. It was fairly predictable because they keep seeing future versions of themselves, which, that... At least anything up until when they're very, very old men, they just keep trying to screw themselves over anyway. Be it the muscle guys in prison, which I thought was hilarious, and them faking being British and Bill's bald as could be and whatnot, and then Ted being a drunk and whatnot in the future. So I think it was fairly predictable in that way, definitely. And what was that's your favorite scene too, or no?
See, I liked when Grohl showed up and he wasn't like, like I said, he was kind of still humble in the sense of just. Hey, he just showed up and was like, hey, what are you doing in my house? That was it. That was all his line was. But, I think that was cool. I think that was, an awesome scene. I think my other favorite scene was kind of when the daughters realized that they got to kind of help the dad out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because it seems like they don't go into their history, but it seems like they didn't really help the dad out the whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe if they would have added more story to it by showing, hey, we're always helping them out. Or the other way around. Maybe it's always like, hey, our dads have really been helping us out their whole lives, and we're to help them out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now it kind of dawned on them, hey, we need to help these guys out. So it's kind of like, because that's where the kind of the backstory, the movie gets rolling. The story kind of gets rolling there, and it's kind of in the background a little bit because you're like, oh, Bill and Ted, Bill and Ted, Bill and Ted, but it's really these other people that are kind of helping them to save the world.
Very true.
So I kind of like that they were like, we need to help our dads out.
Yeah.
And then the other girl's like, yeah, I guess you could take it for a ride. I'm still going to stay here.
Yeah, Kelly. Yeah, I think I will say in that one scene with the where they fake give them the song and whatnot. I like one of the little nods to all the other films was like Ted being like, Bill's always like, I never really had a problem with my other self, and Ted's like, yeah, I'm always weird with my other self, and that's so true because in the first one was like, are you sure we should trust him? And then the second film was like, dude, I got a bad feeling about this. Because he is the intuitive one. So I like these little nods. I'm sure there's more little nods that I completely missed. For me, the least favorite scene, I can't say there really is one. There were scenes where I got worried, like with the robot getting too silly or it going too in one direction or another that I wouldn't have agreed with. So I feel like I wasn't able to truly just enjoy it for what it was because I'm always worried about after Star Wars and Star Trek and all these other franchises that I grew up with and adore being ruined by modern day storytelling, I was afraid they were going to ruin Bill and Ted, and they didn't. And I guess that's the greatest compliment I can give it. So I think if I went back and really enjoyed it for what it is, I would have a least favorite. But I will say my favorites are a tie between being the sentimental person I am. You're not anywhere near as sentimental as I am, at least not openly. I am very open about that. Was between them sitting with themselves what feels like on Bill and Ted's deathbeds and granted these are the Bill and Teds that I tried to screw them over previous times before, but it's just this it's absolutely absurd because I'll never forget you, Bill. I'll never forget you, Bill. But thank you for always being there for me, Ted. Oh, I never opened myself up to you, Ted. It's absolutely absurd. So it's totally Bill and Ted, but it also has that sentimental value of just life and death and family and love and regret and failure, which resonates with me a great deal. So I love that. And then of course seeing Death again. Death can never have a big enough part in these films. He steals the show.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Have you come to sue me again? Talk to the hand. The restraining order around. Is this too close? And then like the daughters, because you feel that familial relationship. Death, without them having to say it, was like an uncle to them as they grew up. They loved him growing up. And then the fathers and Death had a falling out, kind of both their faults. And then just them reuniting and being like buddies again. It's like brings a tear to my eye because I love these characters and I wanted to see them together again. So this, for me, the sentimental value of wrapping up this trilogy in those two scenes meant a lot to me. So I really enjoyed that. And I don't know, overall, yeah.
You mentioning the part where they met their older selves and were talking to themselves, I almost felt like it would have been. I wonder if they filmed it the other way, right? Hear me out. Where younger Bill says goodbye to older Ted.
I thought the same thing.
And the other way around. And to see if that works. Because maybe they did try it and it didn't work. Who knows? Yeah. But I almost felt like when he said, because it's almost like, okay, so what you're saying is he never really opened up to himself, okay? Like, I understand where they were getting at with what they were saying.
Yeah.
But it almost should have been like, yeah, oh my God, I'm seeing my older self, but oh my God, I'm seeing my older best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is crazy. Like, I felt like he should have been saying goodbye to the older guy.
Yeah.
And, the other way, I think that would have been very interesting.
I totally thought about that, and then I was like, well, I guess, like, always relating it to you and I, if we met our future selves are side by side at each other's bed, they're going to be able to tell each other what they meant to each other. So old me is going to get a chance to say goodbye to old you and vice versa, whereas, like, I don't know, I see it both ways, I think, yeah.
Present, you didn't get that. So now you feel like you got that chance to now say goodbye to older me.
True. Yeah.
Know.
I thought the exact same thing. Like, wouldn't it have been great if it was the other way around? But, I don't know. I guess that's something we'll never find out.
Started talking.
Yeah.
At first, I thought that's what it was when they started talking, and then it wasn't. And I was like, ah.
So, where do you feel it ranks, or can you even make that decision right now because it's so fresh in your mind? Where does it rank in the three? Is it the worst, the middle child, or the best?
The first one is always the best to me. I'm sorry. To me, a lot of trilogies, the first one was usually one of the best. Now it's a toss-up between the second and the third.
Yeah.
But I still think, you know what I think? I think it's still going to be the order it was created for second, third. But literally, the third is like, the first is 100, the second's 99, and the third is 98.9. You know what I mean? Like, they're right in that second and third. But I can't put the third above the second.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's exactly, and I think maybe with time, maybe it might edge out Bogus Journey, but it's also the first and second you can compare completely, even though they're very different films. They do touch a lot of the same beats, and so does this. But those two are far more similar, being 2 years apart in their release, like 3-4 years in their production. This is a completely different film in so many ways, and it doesn't try to copy them. That it just, I almost feel that to rank them is unfair. But if I had to, I would agree with you. And so ultimately, out of,
I really like to look up the total running times of the other two movies, because that's really one of my only complaints, was just that I felt like it was so short. But meanwhile, if it's the same length, if not longer than the other two, then I feel like an idiot.
I think the second one was the longest. I think the first and third one are almost identical in running time, I believe.
Yeah.
But
it feels so quick.
It did.
My only other issue was, and it has nothing to do with the movie, but the theater itself, the drive-in. I wish the screen was a little brighter. I felt like it was dark. That was the only thing. I felt like the screen wasn't saturated in that bright theater saturation look. It was kind of like the grays and the blacks blended together, and it looked too dark at some point.
I feel like the projector was too far away, but it has to be because they are expecting rows and rows of cars, even though there weren't many.
Yeah.
I am going to watch it again. I'm going to order it at home and watch it again and sit with it and see how it feels and enjoy the vibrance, because the special effects were tremendous in this. I think it did the right job of taking, the electric claw that brings the booth down. It did not try to redo the past, but it updated it in a modern, obviously more affordable computer way. Yeah. And out of 5 air guitars, how many air guitars do you give this film, Balls?
I would give it 4 air guitars out of 5. Only because of the length. I feel like if they threw another 20 minutes in, they could have fattened it up with a little more backstory, or maybe a couple more throwbacks. Because who's going to see it? The newer kids, whatever. They're not. It's hard that you're going to get new fans. You're going to get people like us or on our generation that have children that have brought their children to see it. Although, unfortunately, our showtime for 10:45 didn't start till 11:15, so my daughter fell asleep.
No, it started close to 11:45. So yeah, your daughter fell asleep. Yeah. Was that cool to share with the next generation for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the one day that she was watching the first one, I took a picture of her watching it, sent it to you.
Yes.
So it'll be nice if I can get it again or whatever to let her sit down and watch it. Be like, oh, okay, let's watch it again.
Yeah, that's cool. And for me, I would agree. I give it 4 out of 5 air guitars. Runtime, the biggest issue. Again, exactly that. But overall, they paid respect to the characters, to the legacy. They wrapped it up. They should have had an epilogue to tie it up on a more personal scale rather than the epicness that this finale allowed for, which was, for the most part, very, very well done. And I'm glad that it was worth the wait. And I'm glad we got to see it together to bring that journey together full circle. So, Dave, my friend.
Yes, Shane, my friend.
Oh, you got that. That wraps up our review of Bill and Ted Face the Music, and I hope you, the audience out there, enjoys this review and enjoys the film yourselves, and let us know in the comments what you think. Like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and take care of yourselves, and go to sleep.
All right.